unless they find a way of having full electric cars that run on nothing, for example.
True. By the way, why have UFOs not been spotted in Kenya?
They're all tax probably.
Even Maasai's have 4G on their phone and they have M-Pesa banks and they're all campers. I think the aliens saw the VAT here. They saw the tax. They saw 7-year presidency term. They're like
they don't want
Utakutana next term. Let's just stick to Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
Yes, no young rich person in Kenya is looking at shambas as we speak. They just go online and look at the price of a GTR.
Situfungue coin.
Yeah.
We pump it up.
Yes.
We call it the EK coin, the Earl Karanja coin.
Yes.
Get people to buy and
and then we sell, and then we imagine trying to invoice a Ferrari SP3 from Nairobi. just try and imagine. Yes.
Karibu to the Coffee Pump Podcast, sir.
Thank you, my friend.
We've been planning this for a while.
Yeah. That's before I traveled.
I traveled and then you told me I'm going for a short while. It turns out it was close to 6 weeks.
Yeah, about 4 months.
I mean, talk 4 months.
Yeah.
Bro, it's not 4 months.
It's time flies. This year especially. We started, Christmas was just the other day.
It's 4 months since you traveled.
Yeah, it's been 4 months now.
Really? That's how long it's been.
Time flies.
Because this guy was every other week he's like, yo, get Earl. Yo, message Earl.
Literally,
yo, get Earl.
No, time has gone so fast you can't even imagine.
So, I mean, talk to me about that 4-month travel period.
Yeah.
Did you go because of just your own exposure, your own will, or did someone call you out?
No, this is my own work taking me there.
Okay.
So my company is based in London.
Yes.
And I try to split my time between London, Nairobi, and maybe a few countries in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And obviously, the best time to travel to London and Europe in general, it's during summer. That's when 100%. The car activities are
crazy.
Are just crazy, you know. So if you really want to see the most cars, you want to interact with the most cars, and even for my clients, most clients are traveling to London during summer. So anytime from June to September, around there, just before fall, you have a lot of car activities, and by car activities I mean up to 10 motor shows in a day. So
that's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at the content you were posting. Generally, every other reel that you had was a fresh take on different types of cars across the different verticals.
Yes.
It wasn't just one trick pony car types. So was it just UK or did you go all over the place?
It's basically, I would say England, and you have at least in every weekend, let me just say every weekend of summer, you have about 20 to 50 motor shows going on. And that is from small meets to big motor shows.
Right.
And this summer particular, it was rainy. The weather was not so good, but that does not stop the car activity from, buzzing, and we take advantage of that.
Right.
I know my clients are gonna come, and so I've gotten to a point where my work and me posting about cars is the same thing.
Yeah.
So you've met with a client, finished the meeting, he's showed up with a nice car, I end up shooting it. So win-win, And you can't run out of content, especially car content.
From the 4 months that you went, what was one car that you saw where you were like, wait, this genuinely just, it's something you'd never seen before? Something that maybe stood out to you? Was there at that moment, did you have that experience?
Yeah, quite almost every day, I think. I tend to deal with new cars because most of my buyers are new buyers. So we are talking of people aged between 20 to maximum 45.
Yes.
And even though those are the cars I deal with, I'm very interested in old cars. So me seeing 250 GTOs in one location, that's about 200 million or 150 million in one location.
Jesus Christ.
That's insane. I'm not talking in a dealership. In a dealership is one thing, but in an open motor show and driving, that's just insane. And I think it gets to a point where you get used to that to the point it's not surprising you until you get to the house and you watch the video and you're like, oh, this actually happened. In person, you feel like it's normal, but back in the house now, you're scrolling through and this is your video.
You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I think it's a testament to your following, especially on social media,
Uh-huh.
because you're exposing us in Kenya and East Africa. I'm sure now your audience is even stretched across the borders where you're exposing such cars. And in fact, I think this should be a documented thing you do every year, where you just travel and you post car content.
Because I think I started this car thing quite a long time, just showing people cars.
Yes.
But to be able now to actually show the cars in person, that is like first person shooter. You are there with the and you're showing people, this is the car, this is me, and this is what I have to say about this car.
Right.
It's different from just me posting a few pictures like I used to do in my days on Twitter or even posting on a blog. It's quite different.
It's quite different now.
Yeah.
So if you'll allow me, I want to start. I know people tell me I should do more research and this and that. I'm like, look, this is a conversation between two people as we would have, let's say, if we met randomly at a Java.
Yeah.
I want to start those early days.
Yeah.
What got you into this? First of all, tell me, are you Nairobi? Were you Nairobi based always?
Oh, no. I grew up in the village.
In the village?
Yeah.
Which size were these?
So I grew up in Subukia. It's in Nakuru.
Okay.
So that's Nakuru County.
Outskirts of Nakuru.
Yes. So it's between Nyahururu and Nakuru town.
Okay. Nyandarua?
No.
That's before.
Yes. So it's between Nakuru on your way to Nyahururu. The Nakuru Nyahururu highway.
Yes.
So just between, it's like a depression. It's like the valley.
So those your early days were spent there.
Yes. I would say up to my teens.
Yes.
Because even I went to school there. My high school was Nakuru High School. That was Nakuru High School before it was transitioned to Nakuru Boys, and up until college. So
I mean, was cars something from a very early age that you wanted to put? Like, were you just interested in the topic of cars? What was that earliest memory that came up for you where you're like, anything to do with cars, I'm there?
No. To be honest, I never had that exposure of cars.
Okay.
The maximum growing up was the rally passing by. And those days now in the 90s, and my dad would just take us on a farm and we watched them. They would just pass outside our farm. And those are the earliest memories of cars. But growing up with supercars, I've had to actually work on that from a scratch from when I went to high school.
Yes.
So I used to be in computing and I used to manage the computer lab and I had my own computer. Those were the days when I think I used to have a 128 MB RAM desktop, and I was the first person to actually acquire another slot for 128. So my computer became 256 and you could play any game on that thing.
Yeah, those are the early days when you played Doom.
Yes. So basically it was when Blogspot was coming up. This is like 2007. I'm in Form 3 and we could just play around cars. So you create lists like top 10 fastest cars in the world. We had the likes of the Gunpowder Polo and all that.
Yeah.
And it became quite something that I never knew would be, create such an impact.
Correct.
I had to learn the cars from scratch. So the same way you learn about calculus, the same way you learn about medicine.
You did your own research.
I had to learn the cars like it was a school.
Okay, so I mean, what prompted you to get into this career from the early days? Because I know you had a blog in 2015.
That actually started when I was still in high school. So we are talking 2007, 2008, 2009, around there.
And so were you just doing it as a fan of cars? You're seeing stuff, you're just talking about it?
So you see, when you get online,
yeah,
back then you had to go onto their homepage and then there are different topics.
Yes.
You have different topics online and you start noticing that there are people writing about cars.
Yeah.
And even though we grew up without, electricity and movies or anything like that, every time I would come to my grandfather's place in Nairobi, I would watch James Bond movies like I was born to watch them. Right. And if you know anything about James Bond movies, they probably have more car action than Fast and Furious.
Yes.
So that actually had me like do a lot of research about cars. Aston Martin has been like the first brand that I fell in love with.
Yeah.
Like totally fell in love with that car. And when growing up, the earliest interest I can locate would be having my friend. I had a friend called Gakuo. He was like a neighbor from like you know how you say a few blocks down.
like
Now us, it would be a few hills away. You know, because it was actually a few hills away. The guy was so good in drawing. I would tell him to draw me a pickup. He would draw like the most perfect pencil pickup that you can imagine.
Right.
And I remember I used to look forward to like after school to have him present me with the latest drawing, and I would just go with them at home, just put them on the wall.
And
I didn't have the Countach, and you know, most kids grew up with like a Lamborghini Countach, Ferrari F40, 288 GTO, the likes of.
I think the Countach was on most, especially during. I think my exposure into that was probably the Rocky movies.
Yes.
You know those old school Rocky 2, 3 when he was driving them. You have that.
You have everything, you know.
And they used to give them on calendars. Do you remember?
Yes.
There's some guys that used to give calendars, and they have different supercars on that.
Exactly. Now, imagine having not growing up with that, and you have to like deal with, you know, pencil drawn cars.
That's insane.
And I used to feel like I'm on top of the world. Actually, you know, like you have access to this drawing that no one else has. I didn't even know about people having cars on their wall until, you know, I now came to know about cars and realized, oh, this was a thing. I was not the only one who was doing this.
So you came from very humble beginnings.
Yes. Both my parents were teachers, and I wouldn't say humble, I would say strict. So like really
Fair
strict.
enough.
You can imagine. Yeah.
And did you have any further education after that? Did you go to college?
So I went to college. Back then it was called Kenya Polytechnic.
Yeah.
They've changed it to, I think, Technical University of Kenya.
Yeah.
I did my first, I started my first degree there, mechanical engineering. After 1 month, I realized I hate mathematics. So I changed. I went to, I did telecommunications.
He's an engineer, that's why he's checking.
I did telecommunications and then
you did telecommunications?
Yeah, and then they had this something called Maths 1 and Maths 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
Then I quit. So after 1 year, that was after 1 year. So I had this teacher who was like, you know, following me up, telling me you passed, because I ended up passing, but I told the teacher I passed by luck, not because I wanted to pass. You know, and he kept saying, just, you know, come back. You're one of the top students in class. Don't waste your.
Maybe early you were a chop, but then you're just being lazy.
I was being lazy.
Maybe you was a smart guy.
I was actually being lazy. I was like, I am done with high school. I am done with studying. I want to relax. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to Nairobi University. Back then, I don't know if they still do it now. What you had to do was you go to Nairobi University, and the course that you are called for, you can actually switch it. So
okay, yeah. So I mean, if you're doing something like prerequisites, you can just switch to another completely different.
Even a different university.
Okay.
So I had been called to JKUAT in Taita Taveta, and I was like, no way I'm growing up in the village and studying in college in the village. So I actually changed my course again.
Okay.
They had called me for fishing and something. Like
fishing.
You don't exactly. I never even seen a fish but up to that point. So I told them, look, I want to go back to Kenya Poly and do a bachelor's in international relations. So that's the degree I pursued. Right. But before that, when I was waiting to join that, I joined a course at ZTech University called marketing. It's like ICM, marketing, sales, advertising, and something like that. And to be honest, that's the only piece of education post high school that helped me to get where I am. Not my college degree.
Right.
It's probably the best thing that I ever decided to do. Like take a short marketing course, learn how to work with the skills that you have, then market your skills.
So I'm assuming, given that your parents were both teachers, how was the reaction to you jumping from one course?
They didn't know. They didn't know it. They just knew I'm still in college and I'm still doing mechanical engineering. Yes, and the good thing is I graduated, and then I told them, look, this is what I've graduated in.
Yes.
But by the time I was graduating, I remember during my 4 years in college, I used to have my computer and typing notes, but on different tabs, I'm actually blogging about cars.
Yes.
So I was like that. Those were my prime years from 2011 to 2014.
Right.
Prime blogging years. Like,
blogs were quite big back then. Huh?
yes. Now, after my blogspot, I got called by a company called GT Spirit in Germany. That's actually now the company that put me on the map, that helped me, shaped me, showed me that actually these are not the real supercars. You know, it was a supercar magazine. They didn't deal with.
So someone came across one of your posts
Yes.
from that company and said,
Yes,
"There's
from
potential here."
my blogspot and Twitter. You know, back then Twitter was quite big.
Quite
yeah?
big, yeah.
So someone just spotted it and said, "Hey, would you want to write for us?" And I said, I never even knew I would be approached on Twitter. Hell yeah, I want to write for you. And
Yeah.
it was like about $10 to $13 an article, which wasn't quite bad in high school.
Yeah.
And back then the dollar was
Money,
quite,
that's money,
quite
bro.
you know,
Yeah.
money was valuable back then.
Yes.
You know, and I remember I used to have a friend. So my boss back then, he's called Des. We are still very good friends. And he said, we don't deal with anything 9/11 and below. So it's 9/11 and above. And that's the goal I set even when I started dealing cars.
Yeah.
I set my bar 9/11 and above.
Do you remember what the first article you wrote for them was?
Oh, I would have to go and check, but it would have to be one of those hypercars, the Gunpowder Polo, or something to do with Koenigsegg. But we ended up now writing like normal supercar stories.
supercar
Like
stories.
I would do up to 15 articles in a day, and that's good money in a day because that's like $150 in a day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was good money back then, and you know it got you now to actually understand. There's no better learning than actually writing about something.
Yeah, because you're putting it down, you're doing your research, you're sort of putting your mental
Yes.
knowledge into the digital front, which I guess you're learning more on the job by doing that.
Learning,
Right? Yeah.
yes, that is what happened. I ended up learning more about cars than I would have, like, you know, just posting on Twitter or anything like that.
So now you've basically gone from a car blogger to someone who's making bucks doing
Yep.
this.
Yeah.
How did that switch happen? Where you're like, okay, I can actually make money doing something that I'm passionate about.
So it actually isn't something that I planned for, that I sat down and said, let me start selling these cars. During those days, you see the supercar world is quite small.
Yeah.
And within a short time, you end up having a network of suppliers, buyers that you're dealing with, because we are still doing for sale articles. You're still writing about cars that have just been made one of one or one of 10. You end up realizing this is a very small market. Someone asks you, how much would this cost? I want this, you know? So what happened is I opened a page called Supercars for Sale. And my initial goal, I actually opened 3 pages back then. Supercars for Sale, Supercar Wheels, and Supercar Tuners. The tuners would deal with tuning,
Custom tuning and stuff more.
and we are dealing with top people. We are talking of, back then it was, you know, Brabus. We are talking of Novitec, Mansory, Tech Art, such things. Yeah. Then the wheels, we had the likes of ADV1 wheels. They were quite big back then. They were on the same level with HRE, but obviously they went down. Then now we have HRE, Vossen wheels.
Yes.
Those are the kind of wheels that you're posting. And for the Supercars for Sale, that picked up quite well because people love to know these cars. How much do they cost?
It's a fascination with everyone because
Yeah.
you see those numbers.
Yes.
I don't know. You know, the thing is, everyone wants to know the price
how
of
much, yes.
price of
I
something.
mean, even if you go on Google and you type like Pagani Huaria, the next suggestion is price. Like most people are typing, what's the price of a Pagani Huaria? And
Is that a global thing or it's a Kenyan thing?
it's a global thing. It's an actual. Right now, it's so bad. Actually, you type Pagani Huaria. The second suggestion is like price in India. Indians are always searching for, and they are big market for this kind of big market. So you get to see suggestions of questions that most people ask.
Yes.
And I'm just posting those cars. I end like posting for a year. The page has grown from about 0 followers to maybe 50,000 in a year. And I have one day, just out of nowhere, someone just asked me, how much is this car? Back then, it was a CLK GTR. That's a very rare car. And I remember the price. I'll never forget because I still feel pain. And I can't remember that was so cheap back then. 4 million euros. It was. Yes,
What?
Yes.
4 million euros?
Yes, it's a very rare car. That car right now, we are talking of more than 10 million euros for that.
Was it the one that competed in the 24-hour race thing and won it? Is that the one?
Not the old ones in the 90s.
So 4 million euros?
Yes, back then that we are talking 2016, and that price was good back then. You could probably even find one for maybe 3.5, but that was
this. So
yes,
I'll give you a story. This
Yes,
car we
yes.
had gone for Hajj.
Yes.
For Umrah.
yes,
The pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia.
yes,
And at that time, it had won some races and was making, I think it was just all over the place.
Yeah.
They were making these toy cars because it's quite an old car.
yes. It's an old car. It's a 90s car. So
Yeah.
Mercedes used those cars in the 90s. This was the road going version of what they used on the race. They used to call it. There was a sports car racing championship.
Yes.
It was like today's World Endurance Championship.
Yes.
And those cars made the news
yes.
back then. So when someone approached me from, I think that was a gentleman from the Middle East, and he asked, how much is it? And I ended up just passing his details to the seller. And even though he never bought the car, the seller did confirm to me that he was a serious buyer. And that's when I realized, wait, I should probably take this thing serious. So I now started posting cars that are actually for sale. And since I already knew a few people, like the supply market, the buyer, the suppliers, for example, you have a few people you've written cars for them, and you can ask him, do you have this car for sale? And someone tells you, yes, I have. I've just collected my GT3 RS, but I want like 25k on top. I'm gonna let it go. That K on top, I'm gonna let it go. So I posted a few cars, and one guy from Argentina contacted me. We had posted a green 991.1 GT3 RS, just launched, and the guy wanted the car. And within 3 days, he had sent the payment. So back then I was working with a guy from...
so the numbers are just going through my head right
yes,
now. There's a Kenyan guy who interested in money. So hypothetically, if you sold a 4 million euro car, what would your percentage be?
So on such cars, you try to stay around 1%. It's a good margin, but that's if you're working with percentage. I hardly work with percentage. What I normally do is, for such a car, if you've been given the car as, let's say, 4 million by the seller, I know even if I do 4.1, that's still good range for someone who is willing to splash 4 million on
So you
car.
just keep whatever you want to.
So what I'm gonna say is I'm gonna price the car at 4.1. If he negotiates a bit, I'm gonna negotiate with the seller a bit, and I reduce my commission a bit. So we are gonna do maybe 4.07 or something like that, and you still have good commission from that.
For a boy from so-called village, that's not bad.
It's not. It's a long road, but it's not bad, honestly.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you another direct question.
Yeah.
What's the most expensive car you've ever sold?
The most expensive car I've ever sold is the most expensive. I would say it's a Ferrari SP3. We sold that car for 4.5 million euros. And that car went to Brazil. Yo,
what are we doing with our lives, man?
So I'm currently actually working on a W1. It's the successor to the McLaren P1. It's not so expensive because it's still a new car, but it's going to be around with the options and everything. The customer is from Indonesia. We've signed the deal. He's paid the deposit, and he wants full MSO option. So MSO is like the special department where you get order whatever you want. So he's added gold options on the car. He's added the gold leaves, like actual gold leaves on the car, and so many good options on it. So it's coming to around 2.9 million pounds, which is still a lot for a car that's not yet that's out.
Insane. Let me ask you, are there buyers in East Africa with those kind of capabilities?
There are buyers with. I mean, you saw the other day, Tanzania, they brought a Puro Sangre. That car, doing my off-head math, he probably spent $1 million on that, because if he bought the car in the UK for about £400,000.
Yeah.
The clearing on that car maybe in Tanzania is not cheap as well. So with everything, all the costs included, I will not be surprised if he paid $1 million on an SUV. So yes, people have this money in East Africa.
Yeah.
The only problem we have is taxation policy.
In fact, I'm going to ask, because as someone who's not very privy to car importation,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that entire process, because a lot of the viewers as well,
Yeah.
they may not directly be car enthusiasts. So,
Yeah.
so we'll
Yeah.
chat about that. But
Yeah.
there's a fan question that I got.
Yeah.
That his name is by the gentleman named Iqbal. He's been on the podcast before. He says, was there ever a Bugatti imported to Kenya? Does Earl know who imported it?
Honestly, I would not know.
Yeah.
I would not be able to say whether there was one or not.
Yeah.
And
Is that because you're under NDA?
no, to be honest, I
Yeah.
have never sold.
Yeah.
The most expensive car I have sold in Africa was a Brabus 800 that went to Namibia.
Wow.
And I don't have many clients coming into Africa. And that's because, like we said, most of these cars, not that Africans will not afford these cars, it's because the taxation policy in
It's
most
just
countries
ridiculous.
outside of South Africa, and South Africa, we don't even consider them African nowadays. They are too lucky, especially with cars. For example, the 250 that I was reviewing today,
Yes.
that car in Kenya is 22 million. In South Africa, it's about $74,000. That's actually half.
74,000 when you go and buy it from the dealership.
Yes, from the dealership.
That's including tax and everything.
That's including everything. That's a country just a few countries down from us, and it's not that people don't have this money. They have the money, but the only people who are willing to spend that kind of money on a car and bring it into their native country is if they are able to get away with these huge, insane amounts of tax.
Because, I mean, yeah. So maybe explain to me that.
Yeah.
If I were to import a car today,
Yeah.
What are the tax procedures in place? So let's say a car is $1 million, Bob,
Yeah.
from Japan. What tax do you pay? And I know the years affects it as well, right? For
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
So what are the tax implications on brand new cars? And
So I am not quite familiar with the Kenyan
Sure.
Kenyan system, what they do, because I normally try to stay within the
within
supply,
the supply
side.
side, yeah,
The
yeah.
supply side. Then even, for example, with the Ducati that I exported or imported here,
Yes.
someone else had to deal with the hassle of KRA. I even told the buyer when we were
Yes.
dealing, he's a good friend of mine. I mean, so good friend. I told him, look, I will do everything. I will run up and down, make sure this bike is put on a plane, make sure everything is good. In fact, I ended up using the same shippers I used for the SP3.
Okay.
So he got a crate. When they opened the bike, he couldn't believe that normally they remove the handlebars to make it narrow. But the guys I used are so used to high-end cars, they shipped it like it was a...
I saw the unboxing as well.
Yes,
where you did,
it
yeah.
was really top level boxing for that. So it was a top level boxing. It was boxed like a Ferrari.
Kabisa.
But I told him, one thing I will not deal with is the local agents, the KRA and all that.
That you deal with,
I
yeah.
honestly don't even have the energy to deal. I have had to deal with them with my cars. And every time I deal with them, it's draining.
It's draining.
And I don't know anyone. I always tell my friends, the likes of Mike Manani, he's a good friend of mine. He does imports. And I tell him, I don't know how you do it. I will not have the energy to deal with these people because there's no reasoning. For example, I'll give you a quick example.
Yeah.
They price cars depending on how many people are buying them.
Really?
So if a car becomes too popular,
like Honda Fit, I remember there was
Yes.
something of the sort. Yeah.
so it becomes like Mandazi. So because a certain brand of Mandazi is selling well, we are going to increase the price just a bit. But you see, it doesn't. That works because supply and demand. In our case, there is no supply and demand. These cars are used cars. Ni kutupwa zinatupwa tunazinunua.
Yeah, exactly.
You understand? It's not that C-Class or W205s are short where they're coming from.
Yeah.
There are so many. In fact, they want us to buy all of them. But how KRA puts it, so many people are buying these C200s and C180s and C250s. So we are going to increase the tax. So many people are buying the CX5s, the Mazdas, a very normal SUV that's meant to be used by normal families. So what do? Let's increase the tax because it's become so popular. By doing that, they are just pushing people away from certain cars.
Exactly.
And in simple terms, you're not gonna develop yourself at that rate.
Does UK? Would you be aware if UK has a similar tax?
So UK, it's easy. For example, I'm in the UK. I import a car from Japan.
Yeah.
I just put it on a plane or a boat. The car is going to come to my address. Then I either handle that or someone else handles for me the registration, the tax. The government is not gonna chase you. You need to chase the government and tell the government, I'm gonna pay this VAT. I'm gonna pay for the registration, and I'm going to pay for everything that's needed on this car to make it legal on the road. So there's nothing like keeping the car in a port, rotting in a port or something like that.
Talking about tax,
Yeah.
with all this shift nonsense,
Yeah.
there was also an article. I mean, this is a completely different side,
Yeah.
but
No, go ahead.
my our finance manager at work just sent me this article for NSSF.
Mhm.
So more paying as NSSF rates set to go up. So you already have, I think they're saying 6%. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that we're now at an economy where we're paying close to 40% tax.
Yes.
And in return, what are you getting? The pain that I get just from seeing that.
Yes.
In fact, if you consider it, someone posted, it's not just 40%.
Yes.
Consider the VAT 16% on top that
Yes.
we're paying on all goods. It just becomes frustrating
It becomes frustrating.
And maybe that's another question, is because now you're in the eye of
Yes.
social media, you're known as a car guy.
Yes.
Do you have these government entities that collect tax coming up and knocking on your door and saying, Al, what's going on?
I try to stay on the right side of that.
Yeah.
I believe in paying taxes.
Yes.
That's how ideally countries develop. That's where we have first worlds and we have third worlds. And that's because if the tax is used properly, then the country is going to improve.
Yes.
If the tax is misused, then you're going to see a lot of people trying to evade the tax and nothing happening.
Yeah.
You just get, a few built roads. The quickest way for a government to lie to its citizens is build roads. It's the easiest thing. Funga macho. Just maliza a few roads. This government has done a lot.
But we're also very forgetful as Kenyans.
Yes.
Because, for example, you can be the government, you'll increase the price of fuel by 20 shillings.
Yes.
People will complain.
Yes.
And then someone will come and say,
Yes.
you know what, let me step in, let me give you guys 5 shillings off. Then you're like, not realizing the price has gone up, but then that 5%, we're super forgetful when it comes to that.
It's honestly insane when you come to think. And that's why I keep saying that in the Kenyan car market, or in the Kenyan, let's just say in the Kenyan car scene as a whole, if you want to reward yourself for working hard, you want maybe to drive a nice car at the end of the day, you are going to make that decision, but at the end of the day, you get maybe a quarter of the reward. So let's say you've decided, I have enough money now, I want to buy a GTR, for example. Then you realize, yes, you are able to afford that car in Japan,
But by the time it comes here,
by the time it comes here, you look at that price, and that's why most people end up going with a Land Cruiser, a Defender, an SUV, something that you say, you know what, at least I spent money on this. There are so many people driving 300 series, and you ask them, do you want to own a sports car? And probably most people will tell you, you think I don't want to own a sports car. I want to own a sports car.
It just doesn't make commercial
but
sense.
It just doesn't make sense for me to give the government 10 million to clear an 8-year-old car, just because they've decided this car is good looking and I think it should be taxed more.
So it's as though there's no fixed rate. It's just on a case by case basis.
Yes, there's no fixed rate. Someone comes and decides this car is now costs more than last year. So they have something they call current retail price or something like that, CSRP or something like that, And that price is what actually dictates the amount of tax that you're going to pay.
Not the price you bought it at.
Not that they don't even care about the price.
Jesus Christ.
So, for example, if I buy a car from Japan and I import it to the UK, I will show the invoice I pay.
Yes.
That way the government doesn't charge me more than what I'm supposed to pay.
Correct.
In fact, I can sue the government if they try to manipulate me into paying more than what I should pay, But here, it doesn't matter if you got that GTR for $1 million, Bob. If they say it cost 50 million, Bob,
Utalipa.
that is what they're going to base that tax on, that figure. Someone sits, wakes up today and decides, what car is that? Anaangalia, swipe, no research. What car is this? This car in Kenya is 100 million. Finish. And it's a hard life.
We love Kenya, we hate Kenya, it's a love-hate relationship. But
yeah,
we're not here to talk about the government.
Yes, we are.
Unless we get into politics.
Yeah.
I have another question. So this is sort of a two-parter. If there's a young man who's looking to get into buying his first car,
yes,
and he loves sports cars, what's the cheapest, and maybe if you look at cost to fun ratio,
yes,
what's the car that he can have the most fun with the least amount of money spent? What would you recommend
right now on the Kenyan market?
right now on the Kenyan market?
Outright the Suzuki Swift Sport.
Really?
If he is looking to spend the least amount of money for the most fun,
Yes.
there is no car that comes close to that. It's such a perfect car that people are actually, there is one post a friend of mine sent me. A guy sold his GT4, a guy from Germany sold his GT4, bought a Swift Sport for tracking on the Nürburgring.
Really?
And if you see what those cars are doing on the Nürburgring at the moment, the real hot hatch, honestly.
So what's the engine size on that? Is it 2 liter?
It's a 1.4.
Okay.
It's a 1.4 turbo engine, and I think it does about 140 horsepower. And you don't even need more than that in a car that weighs almost 1,000 kilos.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's very nimble. It's like a go-kart. Just goes everywhere.
Yeah, it's
quickly.
a go-kart basically.
Okay, that's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
let's look at a family.
Yes.
A young father with kids.
Yeah.
They're looking at SUVs.
Mhm.
They're different ranges and they cost at different ranges.
Mhm.
Again, now if we're looking at it from an element of cost to benefit, right?
Yes.
Where it's a good car,
Yes.
it's an SUV that can cater to the whole family, they can do long distance, they can drive on Nairobi roads.
Yes.
What would you recommend that wouldn't pinch too much of their wallet, but also give them what they're looking for in a typical SUV?
I would say for crossover especially, if you get a fully loaded Tiguan R-Line, that would probably be the best car.
Okay.
And I say this because most people who are looking for a German, they'll probably want to go for Audi. But I always tell people, Audi or even maybe the GLC, I always tell someone, German cars are tricky cars. If you're buying a German cars, you need to study the options before you buy. It's not like a Japanese that wakikwambia it's an exclusive trim. You know, it comes with a list of options and all that. With German cars, they have like a booklet of options. And what you have to do, you have to study those options one by one so that you realize, so that you decide, do I want this option or do I want this? And if you buy a fully loaded SQ5 or a fully loaded GLC, it's going to be way more expensive than even a fully loaded, for example, Tiguan R. But you find that most people have the budget for an entry level SQ5 or a Q5 or a GLC. That budget is equal to a fully loaded Tiguan R-Line. You get a panel roof, you get heated seats, heated steering, cooled seats, for example. It's a 2 liter as well, which is all-wheel drive as well. And to be honest, if you're looking for a car that you want to spend on the road with a family, you need to study the options.
Interesting.
And that's what people don't understand. They end up buying an Audi that has fabric seats, an Audi that has 17-inch wheels. Then you look at a guy, you go to a meet, someone shows up in a fully loaded Tiguan, you enter his car, he has cooled and heated seats, and you start wondering what's happening. He has a panel roof. You don't even have a sunroof on your car because you wanted to drive the badge.
Yeah.
And you forgot that you are spending time inside that car.
Yeah.
You know? So I would say if you are looking, because you talked about the budget. If the budget is limitless, then you can go for a GLC, for example, which is fully loaded.
Yeah.
But if you are working with a certain budget, like let's say mid-level budget, I would say the Tiguan R-Line is probably the best car that you can.
What's the budget people should have for that car?
In the Kenyan market, I'm not sure, but I would say probably the same, around 3 to 3.5.
Right. Which is again not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad because you see for Q5 entry levels, I think that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
entry level Tiguan's will be cheaper definitely as well, probably in the 2 to 2.5 mid range level. But again,
fully loaded at
options,
that price and options
yes,
and kitted at that much, what
options.
more could you want, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I want to circle back now, if you'll allow,
Yes.
you to the blog post.
Yes.
Right? You're writing all these blogs, you get
Yeah.
recognized internationally, you're doing articles.
Yeah.
Talk to me between then and now. What transitions did you make? Where did you switch to? Because video content came much later, if I'm not mistaken.
That's much later. Yeah.
I mean, so how did you get to that? What happened in between? Because you did grow quite rapidly.
So you're asking the growth between.
So between now typing articles,
yes,
and now basically going and doing video,
yes,
documentary series,
yes.
like you basically became a storyteller.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
what sort of inspired that, you know?
So I think being around cars, like everyone nowadays, you've seen the kind of creators who are coming nowadays. It's just someone who is around their work.
Yes.
And starts all you need is a camera.
Yes.
And you start recording. So I basically started training photography on International School of YouTube. If you understand it. So I spent hours on YouTube. Yes. Just studying photography, videography. I went for both of them. I didn't want to spend time on a specific thing. Yeah. So I studied both of them, and I bought my first camera. And from there on, it was just practicing. My first pictures were probably really shit, but with time, you end up. Then someone tells you, oh, you should try a 50mm lens. Then I tried that lens, and I'm like, oh wow, and
you're doing it. Everything you're doing it yourself right now.
Yes,
you're filming.
So I have my wife who does most of the videos,
yes,
especially on the reviews.
Yes,
but the camera stuff, I'm the one who is doing them now. When I talk about the camera, I'm talking about the actual camera, not the phone.
Right. And did you start on YouTube, or did you go to Instagram? Did you go to Twitter? I think TikTok wasn't there that time, was it?
No, TikTok. I only got serious on TikTok like 4 months ago.
And
before that I used to I posted and then I just stopped.
Yeah.
Because I used to find it too similar to Instagram.
Yes.
So I focused on Instagram.
Yeah.
Then my account on Twitter was actually quite big back then. So I used to do a lot on Twitter. But what happened is they never had the rights to most of the music. And I used to post my videos with music. So I got a few warnings, don't post this, take this down, but I never took it serious.
Yeah.
So after 20 warnings, they banned my account. And then I stayed about, I think, like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Then Elon Musk came and he unbanned all the accounts, and I'm like, oh, thank God, we are back in business. So I'm slowly, building my way up back in Twitter, and where I started, that's where I started actually.
And on these social media sites, I know we were talking about it briefly earlier.
Yeah.
But do you genuinely generate revenue through views? Are you getting anything that's worth people investing? Like if someone's looking up to this and says, you know what, I want to do what Earl does, start documenting, start creating content. Is there money to be made just by posting stuff?
There is money to be made, but I'll be honest with you, on my private social media, I don't make any money off it yet. I mean, I have a few people who are asking me for the rates and, here and there to do a few things, but I prefer to have my creative freedom, like at most. Yeah. The moment you introduce money, a few things can, go the opposite direction, But as time goes by, creators have started to get the respect they deserve. And it's not like 5 years ago. So yes, there is money to be made. You can't make money with ad partners. It's not going to be as direct as YouTube, for example, but you can make money with ad partners.
You can't, yeah.
The other way is to what I do now with my professional page, which is it's like a type of e-commerce.
Yes.
Because you see, I'm advertising the cars on that platform. The buyers come through that platform and you earn a commission on the sales that you make. So that's another way.
I mean, that's what I've noticed is a lot of the reels that you post.
Yes.
You follow a story format.
Yes.
Sometimes you start with the conclusion and then you go back to
the start. Yes.
Where did that inspiration come from? Are you a Top Gear fan? Are you a Jeremy Clarkson fan?
Because Top Gear fan. Anyone who is not a Top Gear fan should not even be,
Toka.
around here. Yes, like
Toka.
they should be.
Do you know what Top Gear is? Kim. The camera should be pointed at this guy right now.
So I would say that I get my inspiration a lot from Top Gear. Yes,
Yes.
Fifth Gear.
Yes, they're very
Fifth
good.
Gear, especially the old times.
It's quite detailed.
They were quite detailed. So
Yeah.
you see, whenever I wanted to like actually know more about cars, fifth gear.
Yeah.
Whenever I wanted now the humor to come with it, top
Top
gear.
Gear.
You
Yes.
know? So I still have my reruns going on fifth gear and top gear.
Yeah.
And I can say for sure that they really do inspire me. Also Chris Harris, you know, those old school kind of guys.
Yeah.
They are people who you can sit and learn about cars. And
Sorry.
yes, no, go ahead.
No, and you find that this way, since you transitioned to the storytelling,
Yes.
has it bolstered up your business? Referrals, commissions,
But you
people
see,
coming
my
and approaching you?
business is totally separate from my private page.
Okay.
So my business has its own page, which is purely e-commerce. Like
So,
I
I
said,
mean, now on the story, on
Yes.
the private page that you're
on
doing,
the private page,
you find that...
I haven't really, like for example, pushed cars through that page.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can say is I have gotten a lot of interest from ad partners
Yeah.
who want to partner up on content.
Yes.
Obviously, I do give them my rates. I have a certain rates that I say this is what I'm willing to accept for me to do this kind of content.
Correct.
You know, and I feel that that's what actually most creators should do as well.
And speaking of creators now, because
Yes.
you are what I would refer to as an online business brand right now, because ultimately, everyone that my first exposure to you was online.
Yeah.
Vish and them heard about you online.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that sort of work with you online.
Yeah.
You sell a lot of these cars basically. For example, like the first person that reached out to you
Yes.
about the CLK GTR,
Yes.
that was through the blog.
Yes.
Now, on the business side of things, do you conduct business? Would you say 90% of your business is now strictly just done online? Like you're just joining dots for people over there.
It started that way.
Yeah.
That was before even I had a company. But the moment I now had my own company running things as well, I decided to actually now do a bit of both.
Yes.
So the old school way, I have to go meet clients, sit down with a client, and I realized that actually sitting down with clients, the moment they hear you talking about cars and they see that you know your cars, he's more than willing to even recommend his friends. And in that way, you actually get to sell to a circle of friends.
Yes.
So it's important, not just the online, it's actually important to meet these people.
Especially in Kenya, tunataka kuona.
Yes.
Who's this guy?
Exactly.
He's not AI. You know?
Yes.
If in retrospect now, when you made that switch from a degree perspective,
Yes.
and you got far, your name's sort of become this brand synonymous with cars.
Yes.
What was your parents' take on it? Because it is again, and the guests I keep bringing are all guys who have very non-traditional jobs. You know.
Yes.
So what was that reaction like?
It's my parents are, like I said, they are teachers, and teachers are progressive people.
Yes.
They never pushed me to the point. They never asked me, because by the time I was finishing my college degree, I was making money. So I was already earning a living. I was paying my own rent. I was paying
through this.
Yes, I was. That was through now the blogging part, and I mean I was paying even for my education. So when that happened, when even I finished the school and all that, they never asked me, why are you not going into, why are you not becoming an ambassador, for example? Because I did international relations, and they thought, oh, that course you're gonna work in embassies, you're gonna work in the United Nations and all that. So they never asked me, because they sort of believed that the path that I was taking is well calculated, and
which is nice.
Yeah. So it took a long time, especially for the supercars business. It took a long time for me to be able even to finally pocket my first check or my first commission. It took a long time. I was still surviving on monthly payments for the blogs and all these kind of works. But for the actual commission check to pocket that, it really took a long time. And you had to wait, don't get tired posting. Because most people just obviously, I'm just posting, nothing is coming.
Achana
tu nayo, So I constantly posted to the point, even I remember even after selling my first car, it also now like went dead again. Because we are talking 2016. Nobody's buying a supercar on Instagram.
No one is
I
buying.
had comments, everyone saying nobody's gonna buy a supercar from Instagram. You guys, what are you doing? This, those kind of comments. But I just kept, going on it.
And that's one thing that I admire is this is not, you're not just an overnight success, man. You've
Yeah.
been doing this very early.
It's
I think people that have
something.
come across you, they've probably not understood the road that you've had to walk on, right?
Exactly.
So if you look at now where your business is, by the way, you don't have a website, yeah?
I do have a website, like on my business page.
Yeah.
My Instagram page, there is a website there as well.
Right.
Yes.
In our research, it said Earl does not have a website. Wait, but researchers, what are you doing? You're making me ask the wrong thing.
Yeah, most people think I sell the cars through my private page, but I actually have the Instagram page, Supercars for Sale. That's where I post the cars.
So, for example, if I were to come to you and I tell you, Earl, nataka R34 GTR, you would then go and help me try and manage them.
Yes.
fulfill
So
those.
what I will do is I normally tell people that if you are serious to the point of now buying the car, you let me know your specifics, the color that you want, the mileage that you want, the year that you want. Then on my part, I'm gonna give you options. One thing is that I will only deal with extremely high quality cars, like the same cars that I would buy for myself, the same quality of cars that I would buy for myself is what I would also want to supply. For example, if someone comes and says, "Oh, I'm looking for this and this and this," and I tell them that with your budget, you're gonna get maybe a repaired car, damaged car, I will not agree to that, because that's the quickest way to damage your reputation. If someone brings that car, drives it, then breaks down,
I say,
this is gonna be the car that Al brought. So I always want to bring something that is actually tested. In Japan, they have the grading system. So for me, anything below 4.5, I don't touch. It has to be 4.5 and above. If it's in the UK, I have to do the inspection. I have to make sure that it's been carefully, top to bottom, inspected. I have to study the service history, make sure that the ownership records are matching, the service history is showing, the last service was done.
Yeah.
If any of that is missing, absolutely not touching that car.
So you go into really in-depth analysis
And,
of cars.
and that especially for someone like when you deal with high-end cars, you are dealing with huge amounts of money. These type of clients will actually sue you if something is not right, if what you wrote on the contract is not right. For some of these cars, you have to actually go and pay. So we normally pay about $100 to Porsche to provide something we call a 111 check. So a 111 check, they have 111 points to check on that car.
Really?
From the clutch to the tire to the tiny things that funga the oil and everything, the interior, all those checks. If they don't come positive, then unless now the buyer says, "Oh, I see this one, it has this and this, can we replace that?" Then we replace that with a new one.
And so what happens is in those things, let's say the Porsche gentleman or lady, they will come and then investigate that car with a
you take the
system.
car to a Porsche center.
Okay, and then they do that.
They do that. They're gonna generate. That's why you're paying $100 for that service.
Yes,
they will generate that report for you, and you share with your client.
Yeah.
And then,
and then from there you work.
Yes, from there now the client says, "Can we change everything that's old there and put it new?"
Okay, interesting. For another fan question someone asked me is like, why does Earl prefer stock versus custom?
Stock versus custom.
You know D'Souza and all these guys. Let's say D'Souza comes and tells you, I want to build you a car. Will you say no? Will you say yes?
But I wouldn't say no. This is a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And he knows that we actually talk about building cars. Like, for example, the Bronco I'm doing, it's not entirely stock.
That was another question I had here. Where is the Ford Bronco? So let's try and kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah. So on the stock cars, I'm more of a purist when it comes to cars. And the maximum I can probably do is an exhaust, because I'm old school and I like my cars loud.
Yes.
But on the building part, like power for everything, I always feel, especially the cars that I buy, the moment you start tampering with power, then it starts losing the whole aspect. For example, for my Subaru, I love the way it drives. I love the way it handles. Anything more than that, I can buy a faster car.
Yeah.
You know? But also it comes to the point that I made during another video that I made is if I need to work on my own car, I would probably have done a few things.
Yes.
The Kenyan car market is, or even the Kenyan car scene, there are very few people who can do A+ work on these cars. Like you take a car, build it professionally, like you're given that professional kind of attention on a car. And at the end of the day, you pay for the car, you drive away with it, and you're happy.
Would you these garages? Would you like? Are you willing to shout them out? Like, are there any in particular you'd want to work with, or?
You see, on my cars, I haven't done that kind of work, so it would be quite. Unless now the Bronco is done, then I may be able to comment on, for example, the guys who are doing on the Bronco GSP products. But until it's done, I would probably want to wait until it's done. Then I would be like, yes, they did a good job, and this is what.
Talk to me about that car. What's being done? You've been very quiet about it.
It's taken a long time because, first of all, getting parts, and waiting for the shipping to arrive.
Yes.
But we have made some good progress.
Okay.
And I'm gonna be updating that. But let me just share with you. Just when I was coming here, the wiring guy called me and told me the car has actually started.
Really?
So it's a 100 series engine, the 2UZ petrol, with a 100 series gearbox. That's a 4-speed auto. Then the lower bottom is full 80 series. So what people never knew is after I bought the 100 series, I had to buy an 80 series as well. So we got the whole diffs, the discs, the brakes, literally the whole bottom of an 80 series we had to buy.
Right, so basically it's got a lot of Toyota genetics in there.
I would say it's literally like a Toyota, half Ford.
It's a 0.5 car.
It's a 0.5 car.
American father.
Yes, American father.
Japanese mother.
Japanese mother. And it's one of those cars which I actually hope it works because I honestly wanted for it to have a Ford V8 or even a Chevy V8 at some point. But having someone who can do that job properly here was quite hard. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to give them something that they have worked on.
Yes.
If you can't work on a Toyota engine in Kenya, you have no business opening a garage. So, and that's why I decided, let me get this 2UZ.
Right.
Put it in there.
Yeah.
If the car runs smooth, then we can work on that.
And when would you say that car is ready for the world to see it?
Hopefully, maybe next year.
Yeah. So how in terms
by December, I should be able to test that car.
And it's taken time. It's been more than 1 year.
Oh, more than 1 year is when I started. Most people have known that car. For me, more than 5 years.
Okay.
Yes.
It's taken a long time, huh?
Yes, it's taken a long time ever since I purchased it, and it's something that I actually want to eventually export outside.
Yeah.
So it has to be really well done.
Let me ask you, if we were to look at your future perfect 3-car garage, what would that be? Like, budget is
limitless.
Limitless.
I would obviously probably have a GT3 RS. That's the 992.
We saw one in Dubai. That was a beautiful
car.
Yeah.
I would obviously want a 993 RS. That's another pre-GT3 RS times. And I would want a 930 turbo.
930 turbo is which one?
That's the first turbocharged car from Porsche.
So you're a Porsche guy? Eh?
Yes.
Yeah, so all your 3 cars.
I don't think if I have the money, I would want to try another brand. Diehard Porsche.
What appeals to you about Porsche?
They actually let me tell you something about Porsche. This is just my take. Porsche are the JDM of German cars. You see how German cars give you everything. Like when you drive a German car, you feel the speed, you notice the speed, and you experience the speed. Like you actually enjoy that speed.
Yes.
In most German cars, like you enter in an AMG, it goes straight, it goes fast. But by the time you realize you're going fast, you are actually going fast. With a JDM car, 120, you're already feeling like you are actually going fast, you know.
It's just man and machine.
It's just it makes you feel everything, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what Porsche is. If you drive, for example, a GT3 RS, especially their GT cars, they make you feel that exact feeling. You actually notice you're moving, and that's why they don't overcomplicate them. You get
Right.
450 horsepower, 400 and less than 500 Newton meters of torque. It's the same power as a mid-level German car, like an S5 or even an S6, those kind of power levels.
Yeah.
But then they have built it in a way that they make sure that that power makes you feel 10 times more what another car would make you feel.
So I haven't driven a Porsche, but
Yeah.
I think the sensation I first had,
Yeah.
where I genuinely felt where the speed is connecting to, like, it's just man and machine, that pure
Yes.
visceral experience,
Yes.
was Shelby Cobra V8.
Oh, nice.
That was something that, when you put your foot down, you can literally smell the gas burning and the car's
yes,
going,
yes.
you're feeling it.
It's a good car. I have been in a GT500 in Dubai. My friend gave me a ride in one at the Dubai Autodrome, and as much as the driver feels like he's sitting a bus length away, these are American cars. They're very big,
Very big.
but he could keep up with a GT4.
Yes.
So I would say even American cars, if you know how to drive, you are going to enjoy them.
For sure. There's just something very pure about them,
Yes,
right? It's just
yes.
the whole experience, the way they cater to. Practicality aside, we're
Yes.
talking about experience here.
Yes.
American cars do have
Yes.
the sauce.
No, they do have. Yes.
Another question from a fan.
Yes.
What does Earl prefer? Does he prefer the Lotus Exige, C63 AMG, Toyota GR Yaris, or BMW M2 competition? You know where that question is coming from.
Yeah. So since this is my first podcast, I may probably now reveal the car that I actually
I
bought.
see. Let's do
So
that.
I ended up buying the C63 S Coupe. It's something that it was the only decision that made sense at the time. The Lotus is a good car. If I even made a list which I say the Lotus is probably the best sports car to buy under 50K. And it's a very good car, but I felt like bringing it here, and if something goes wrong, I'm on my own.
Yeah.
I know it's a V6 engine,
Yeah.
but I don't want to be the experiment.
Yeah, you're gonna. Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't want to be the one who is going to say, "Oh, he had a Lotus, it got spoiled, but someone fixed it," or someone didn't fix it. And the Yaris, I already have an STI. I don't think I want to experience another all-wheel drive Japanese car.
Right.
For the M2, I drove the M2 in the UK. I'm a BMW person. I'll admit that on video. I'm a BMW person, and especially the G80, the G series. I love them. All-wheel drive is where my fun starts. Rear-wheel drive, especially on Kenyan roads,
Yes.
I am quite scared. And even though the M2 and the AMG are both rear-wheel drive, I had a go in the M2. And what happens is that if you go into full sports mode, it kind of reduces the traction a bit.
So
if you're not that good, or if there was maybe a lorry on the road overnight, draped a bit of oil, and you're just coming in hot Sunday morning, your left rear wheel on that patch of oil, bro,
this is what
you will start making phone calls. And
so there's one other famous C63. So I hope you're not going to call your car Mona Lisa.
no, I haven't even gotten
Have you found a name for it?
the name I always want to name once it's here.
Yes.
But now, but the challenge I have is the tax on that car is quite high. I am still considering if I want to bring it here, or keep it in my UK house. So,
bro, that's the thing with the taxes of it.
Yes, that's now one thing I have to consider. So, as much as I admit, yes, I have gotten a C63, there have been some few things that I had not thought about. The tax is extremely high. I'm talking about extremely high. And it got to a point where I almost actually traded in the AMG for a GTR, because the GTR has lesser tax here.
Really?
Yes. I'm talking of almost 3 times less than the AMG. That's how bad it gets. And that's because we talked about that. The more popular the car is. So there have been a lot of W205 C classes.
Yes.
So anything that goes with that platform, including the AMGs.
Well, who do we need to talk to? Let's say I say we as in the general car community, and I don't identify myself as part of the car community.
Yeah.
I'd say you leading the forefront with a lot of these people. Everyone has that notion that these taxis, the car industry in Kenya is not meant to create.
Honestly,
what can we do?
I would say I think we just have to wait for another government, and people this time have to vote properly, because right now, even if we decide to go up and cry to those people who are making the policies on cars are not even on their menu. They probably will be like, are you seriously coming to talk to us about cars? You know, they don't care about such things. They have their LX600s and the likes that are well positioned. They can afford them. They can do anything. So anything else doesn't count. If we decide even to petition the government to start pricing cars reasonably, we can even show them proof that if you price these cars, if you tax these cars well, you stand to make a lot more money because more people will import them.
Exactly. So we were on the tax element.
Yeah.
Granted, it's difficult. The notion of us going to talk to people to make a change just seems like hitting your head against a brick wall.
Yes.
One of the things that, personally, I'm a fan of very old cars, right?
Yes.
Like the Nissan SX200,
Yes.
the old Peugeots, the 209s,
Yes.
the HJ60 Land Cruisers, the old ones.
The old ones, yeah.
You know, if I wanted to bring those cars, I mean, do you think there would be a benefit for the government to sort of go and extend that duration? Because right now, it's 2015, right?
Yeah, but you see, I think there is already a law. I'm not too sure on this, so don't quote me on this, but there should be a law on classic cars. It's just that it's a very gray area where that no one knows exactly what to do. It's probably 25 years older. You can maybe import it under show and display.
Yeah.
But you see, the reason why it's not so common is because if that is what identifies as a classic, then someone can bring a Toyota 100 and say it's 25 years old and this is now my classic car.
Yeah.
And every Tom, Dick and Harry will just import old Toyotas.
So we end up spoiling it for ourselves over here.
Yeah, so I think before you even import a classic or vintage car, because, you know, it depends on what they are talking about. There's the vintage, there's the antique, there's now the classic. If they decide that, if you decide you want to import one, my safest bet would be, before you purchase that car, go to KRA, talk to them, see the requirements that they have for you to import maybe a classic or a vintage car. Then they may probably tell you you can do it maybe under show and display. And until then, and after that now, you can now purchase your car. Because the last thing you want is to import that car
and then have
some legal issues now with them.
Earl, Japan, Vish and them just came from there. Will you ever make a trip down?
Hopefully soon.
Before I ask that, are you a fan of the Fast and the Furious? The first two, not before they started going to
the
moon and CG rockets.
The first two.
The
first 1, 2, 3, for example, they had good narratives.
Yes.
But I have never been influenced by Fast and Furious in regards to cars. It's the opposite of what I want with cars. For me, the whole thing about, you know, street racing and all that, it's the opposite. When you grow up in the kind of car scene that I grew in, you kind of want something different from that kind of. So in movies, it's perfect.
Yeah.
But then it ended up influencing a lot of kids thinking that, you know, street racing is cool, you know, pushing cars or you know, just doing some crazy things on the street. Now we have some cultures which I can't even explain. There is this culture in the US that's, I think they call them takeovers or something like that.
Where they
just go around and they just, you know, go around and burnouts and all that. So those are some of the cultures that stemmed from
Fast and
Furious because people want to just become, how do I say? It's like lawless.
Yes.
And it's the complete opposite of what I grew up wanting to be, you know?
Because you grew up watching James Bond instead.
Yes,
so you have a very
so
cultured approach.
I prefer to actually have the cars define who we are, not us defining the cars. Because if you define the cars, then it means every car is gonna be different, and every culture is gonna be so different to the point of that you never even have a point of interaction.
Yeah.
And that's why you find that nowadays you have people who can't, cultures that can't even be in one location.
Yeah.
You have people who love slammed cars, people who love lifted cars, and everyone thinks they're superior more than the other.
Right.
In reality, everyone should be able to come together and,
As one community.
as one community.
Okay.
You know?
Now, since we're speaking of community,
Yeah.
tell me about the mud breakfast. Mud for breakfast.
Or mud for breakfast.
Where did that stem from?
That stemmed from my Jimny, because the only reason
A
I got
solid carbon, huh?
yes, I only got that car so that I can play in mud.
Yeah.
I collected it on a Sunday. On a Monday, even before the plates and before the insurance, I
saw that.
I was going deep into mud rats and all that.
Were you surprised at how the Jimny performed?
I wasn't surprised as much because I knew about it. I just was more impressed that they have actually done a lot of improvements over the years.
And to be honest, the price for that car versus what you get, it's genuinely, especially in Kenya.
Yes, it's one of those cars where you're paying a little bit much, but you get...
But in comparison to the other 4x4s,
yes, it's cheaper.
much cheaper. Right?
Much cheaper. I mean, right now for 4 to 4.5 million, the only 4x4 that you will probably, and I'm talking 4x4, most people confuse the difference between all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
So the cheapest four-wheel drive you can probably get on the market today, other than the Jimneys, I'm talking about the big ones, maybe a used 100 series, and it's not going to be cheap.
Yeah, even 100 series is the pricing.
Yes, even 80 series.
100 series and 80 is beautiful cars, but
yes,
the price people are asking for these things,
yes,
well, a bit crazy.
So when you think of it that way, then you realize the Jimny isn't so badly off in terms of price.
What do you think about the 200 series and now the 300 series, or even the 250? How do you think they're fared? Personally, for me, the 200 series felt like, if you look at a mama with a nice ass,
yes,
that was the 100 series.
That was
when
the
you went to the
series,
200 series, like now mama who's
yes,
been overfed.
Yes,
I thought it was just too big.
I think
300.
I think for me, my Land Cruiser starts at 80 series.
Yes.
Actually, starts at 70 series.
70 series were good.
I go to the 80 series. I go to the 100. I skip the 200. I go to the 200, to the 300, sorry.
Yes.
And now I actually love the 250.
The 250 is nice.
Yes.
In fact, you just came from reviewing.
Yes, I just came from reviewing one. And I would say that right now, anyone who is on the market for a Land Cruiser, you either go back to 100 or skip the 200 and go to a 300 series.
Yeah.
And that's because I feel like it felt more, it was quite bloated. And Land Cruisers need to, have that look. We just don't want to be a beautiful cruiser.
Correct.
You want to be a rugged cruiser. And I know that's why they have the 70 series, but then, I mean, have you driven that car? It's very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable.
And it's made for that job. So you want a balance between the 70 series and something like a Prado. True. And that's where now the 200 series comes in, but now they just made it too big,
Let me ask you, this is maybe just on a different tangent, but it's in line with newer cars.
Yes.
There's a huge push for electric.
Yeah.
And combustion engines are sort of being rendered useless.
Yeah.
Two-part question.
Yes.
What's your take on us going electric globally? And what's your take on electric being pushed in the local market in Kenya? That ranges from all different car sizes.
I always felt like electric is not bad. They should have, in fact, I felt like they should have gone hand to hand, such that people who are not interested in cars should actually buy electric. And the electric car sales should actually allow us to actually keep driving V8s, loud cars, ICE and all that. But then instead, it became a fight. And electric became more of a type of car that is trying to come and eliminate the internal combustion engine. And that didn't sit well. It only sat well with people who believe that cars are the reason why global warming is happening,
Yeah, I agree.
But then it should have been, they should have worked together. All these manufacturers should have worked together. And that's why I never have a problem with electric cars, because I feel like they present a balance. Everything needs a balance. So if we are going to have big V8s running up and about, and someone feels, oh, that V8 is too harmful for environment. Oh, okay, here's an electric car. So that means that for the majority of the people who don't need a four-cylinder Mercedes, then they can have an electric Mercedes-Benz because they want the luxury that comes with it. Then for the other fraction of the people that want a meaty car with a meaty V8 engine,
Yes.
then they can spend their money and buy the V8.
Yes.
And we can all live together. You know?
Correct.
I mean, if you go to the jungle, you don't see all green trees. You see some different colors, you know.
I agreed.
But then politics,
You posted a reel about this with the new C63.
yes,
They're going full electric.
they're going half V8 basically, 4 cylinders.
So explain to me how that would work then, like compared to the previous engine. Where someone who's not very mechanically inclined.
Basically, what happened is when the electric car wave came,
Yeah.
most manufacturers thought that, you know, the Gen Alpha, not even the Gen Z, they are banking on the Gen Alphas. These are the people who are going to come and buy the whole electric. They are not used to big cars. They hear a loud car and they think, oh no,
yeah,
that's
it's
too
not,
loud.
It's not for me, yeah.
You know, it's not for me. It's too loud. We need a quiet environment, you know, something like that. So what happened is all these manufacturers started pushing the EVs and EVs and EVs. And Mercedes was one of them. And they decided we are going to remove the V8 from the C-Class and put a 4-cylinder, inject Formula 1 technology. And if there's one thing that the Gen Alphas love, is something that, oh, it has F1, those big terms, you know. But it never worked because if you look at as we speak right now, Porsche and other manufacturers are actually backtracking their efforts towards full electric conversion. That shows you that it was a wrong move. They banked on the wrong
Course.
audience,
Yeah, can
you
say
know.
that. Your personal opinion, do you think we will live in a world in the next 50 years where combustion engines are...
I still think they are going to be combustion engines. I think right now what normally happens
Maybe
is
it'll be more expensive.
we will have alternative fuels. I think the same problems that we have on combustion engines, fossil fuels, if we decide to transition to full electric, we are going to end up with the same problems of resources in terms of where full electric cars get their energy from. Because you see, at the end of the day, they all need a source of energy.
Yes.
So we are talking of fossils versus batteries, for example.
Yes.
So if we have a problem with fossils, in 50 years, I can tell you, we are still going to have a problem with batteries. Unless they find a way of having full electric cars
Yes.
that run on nothing, for example.
True.
Like pure air or something like that.
Again, this is off on a different tangent, but
Yeah.
there is... Are you into this UFO and all these parameters around? Okay, so you know how combustion engine, basically, you create a force to push you forward.
Mhm.
They're saying, and I know people who watch these things, Chuki is gone crank, but alien technology, the name is skipping me, but essentially, aside from combustion,
Yeah.
it's basically now using gravity to move around. So that kind of propulsion.
Yeah.
They say that technology exists. They say that people who have developed that technology have been killed. In fact, UFOs have been spotted. Have you noticed how UFO talk has become quite common? They spotted ships, they're spotting this in the West. I think maybe that's a new technology they work in cars, bro. Maybe.
Well, I haven't thought to that far. All I know is combustion.
Let us deal with KRA issues over here. Forget
Yes.
about aliens.
Forget about UFOs.
By the way, why have UFOs not been spotted in Kenya?
They are all tax probable.
Even
guys.
Maasais have 4G on their phone and they have M-Pesa banks
Yes.
and they have all cameras.
Yeah, these things are always spotted in the US. That's why we have so many of these.
No, I think the aliens saw the VAT here.
Yes.
They saw the tax. They saw 7-year presidency term.
Yes,
They're like,
they don't want this.
Tutakutana next term.
Yes, let's
let's
look
just
for-
stick to Donald Trump and though Kamala
yes,
Harris.
Yes, let's stick with what we know.
Exactly. This is not our
Yeah.
problem. Yeah, Kenya is a completely different bracket.
And that would be entirely true.
That's all.
Yeah.
We've talked at length about your past, your present.
Yes,
Now, as we wind things down,
yes.
what's the future look like? What's Earl's next 5 to 10 year plans? Business-wise, personally, what are you doing? What are you aiming?
Personally, I think I would really want to own my own GT3 RS. I just don't want to sell them. I want to have my own.
Inshallah.
And business wise, I want to at least have my own boutique in London, where now my clients can come.
Your luxury car show.
Yeah, more of a boutique and an area like a vault where people can just come. My clients can come. They can store their cars, for example, for the entire summer.
Yes.
Where we can meet. So it's going to be not the normal showroom. It's going to be more of a. That's why I'm saying more of a boutique. And I also want to have a section of where we are just going to talk about investment cars. I want to be able to invest, to offer advice on investment cars for especially the young people who are becoming new collectors, or what we call the young timers.
Yes.
So if I can do that, because I feel like I have a lot of knowledge that could be used for towards helping people come up with collections.
Yeah.
And most of the people nowadays, they have the money, but they don't know what to collect. And the reason I say this is because, for example, I'm working on a list right now for someone who has given me a certain budget to work on, and he wants at least 15 to 20 cars, which are all appreciating, not depreciating. So this is a very comprehensive list of cars. Some of these cars are not what I would buy, but they are cars I know that will probably appreciate at some point.
So are you able to say what the budget was?
He is working on a budget of about $20 million.
Jesus
and
Christ.
he wants at least 15 to 20 cars. So
I'm assuming he's not even from Kenya.
no, he's not from Kenya. He's a gentleman from Doha, Qatar. He has already bought a few cars from me. We actually are closing in on a Ferrari E027 Competizione Apata, a very unique spec of delivery mileage collected from Germany. But now he has gotten to a point where he feels like he was a watch collector. The reason I'm saying this, he sold off his entire watch collection.
Really?
And the profits, he wants to use that profit into a car collection.
Imagine that. Imagine dropping $20 million.
Yeah.
I want cars. Here, my Fulis has just reached 2,500. Bro.
And you see, this is what we are trying to change, because those developed countries, they show their citizens that actually it's okay to spend your money, because when you spend your money, the government is also benefiting. And that kind of encouragement is what most first worlds are doing to make sure that the economy is actually staying afloat. We have a lot of young rich people in Kenya.
Yeah.
And trust me, no young rich person in Kenya is looking at Shambas as we speak. They just go online and look at the price of a GTR. It's the world we live in. Back then, our old people, they never had that kind of luxury of the internet to be able to see this and this. But the young people today, the Gen Z, even the Gen Alphas, if they are willing to learn, but they make their first 10 million and they decide, half of this, I want to treat myself.
Yes.
Back then, those guys would make their first 10 million from a coffee farm, and the first thing he thinks about is maybe buying another farm.
Yeah.
Most of them maybe even
Healthy.
yes, something totally different. Nothing is wrong with that. They made their own money that way. But you see, things have changed. Nowadays, people just realize it's kind of, life is short. I'm making this money now. Let me enjoy it when I'm young.
Correct, yeah.
But you see, for Kenya, these young people cannot actually enjoy that kind of money. You make your first 10 million, and before you decide what car you even want to treat yourself with, what watch you want to treat yourself with, or what maybe a piece of equipment that you want to buy, maybe to even expand your business, the government is trying to tell you, I dare you to spend that money.
Utaona.
Dare you to spend that money. That money, keep it in the bank, and if you spend it, more than half is going to come to us. So you're like, you know what? Let me go to another country, to Dubai, buy an apartment there,
Yeah.
or something like that.
You know, I agree with you. Because back then,
Yeah.
government was an enabler.
Yes.
All right. For example, government makes a decision. This is where we're going with technology. Private sector then runs off to facilitate it. Everyone wins. And let's not bullshit around.
True.
Both sides cooler. Right?
Yes.
But then the job is done.
Yes.
Now what I'm seeing is government is competing with you as well.
Mhm.
When you have an issue at, let's say, when you have a issue with your plumbing,
Yes.
you don't call the government,
You don't.
you call a plumber.
Yes.
That's the way the government is saying is like, no, we want to be involved in the plumbing services as well.
Mhm.
It's
And
just, it's becoming
It
tricky.
becomes difficult. You see,
Yeah.
and that's why I have said that. It sounds like a lot of money this gentleman wants to spend on cars. Even in fact, for most people, their mentality is that's a waste of money. But for most young people, they will think, oh wow, if I had to, that's why we have so many people asking each other questions.
Yeah.
If you had $1 million, what would you do?
Yeah, what would
Why do you think people ask such questions?
Because that's our generation thinking. In
Yes.
fact, you're a 90s kid, right?
Yes.
Same. We still are in between that where we're like, do we buy properties? Do
Yes.
we buy cars? Do we buy
Yes.
this? The generation after, they're not worried about that. Houses are taken care of, food is taken care of.
Yes.
Like, how do we make our life more comfortable?
Yes.
So watches, this, that.
This and that.
It's become a
And
big
what's
factor.
wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong
There's
with that.
nothing wrong with, especially money that you know you have worked for and you need to spend it. The
Yeah.
government should be encouraging you to spend this money.
Yes.
Trust me, they will become friends with the citizens.
Correct. Let me ask you, outside of cars, is there
Yes.
another place where you would spend your money? Like you
Honestly-
mentioned, you mentioned watches. Are you into
Yeah.
watches?
No, I'm not into watches, but I would not want to invest in anything that I am not familiar with, to be honest, because, and I always tell, I'm not an investor. I am not a financial advisor, but I always have a very simple advice. Unless you are knowledgeable in a certain subject,
Yeah.
you should probably not be taking your money towards that particular. Invest in what you know. Invest in what you work with. Invest in the industry that you are familiar with.
Yes.
That, or have someone else manage your money. Because you see, we have so many people. Oh, let me join crypto trading. Oh, let me join stock trading.
Hey,
Let me
crypto.
join this and this.
What's going on with crypto right now?
Yeah.
It's not great. It's dropped.
That's why it's not money.
Hey,
Crypto you hold, bro. It's not money.
Listen,
You
give me that money. Let's go to the casino. We place it all on red. We'll probably make a better chance.
When you get it,
We'll put half on red. We'll put half on black.
No, it's all about when you get it. When you get it. NFT had a boom.
Yes.
We made mad money.
Yes.
NFTs there.
Yes.
It's just when you get it. When you
Yes,
get it.
exactly.
Are you
It's
into
true.
stock and crypto and all
Yeah,
this?
but you see now, that's what I'm trying to say. If you have that knowledge, that's good for you. But if you don't have that knowledge, try and invest in something that you actually know of. You know?
Situfungue coin.
Yeah.
We pump it up.
Yes.
We call it the EK coin, the Earl Karanja coin.
Yes.
We get people to buy. Alafu sisi tuuze bana.
And then we sell and then we finish.
Bugatti bana, Kenya, landed. Carry what you want. Chukua.
Chukua pesa
Chukua
yote.
pesa yote.
They will probably eat you alive.
But so you're balancing a lot of time between here and UK then as well.
Yeah, so I try to balance my time between here and the UK and Europe as well.
Would you ever see yourself being a full-time citizen in the UK? Like maybe before that,
Yes.
how's your experience like in UK doing business,
It's-
living compared to Kenya?
Honestly, in terms of how the government handles me in the UK versus how it handles me here, the UK is quite easier in terms of a business, but especially a small-time business person. The government is trying to lift you up. They are trying to make you make money so that they can make money. They are not trying to prevent you from working. They facilitate you with everything. You request something, they tell you this and this. The banks, the same thing. The banks are trying to build you, become the next money maker for them.
So that they generate more in the back end.
Everyone is trying to build you into a cash cow, basically. And if you become a good cash cow, you are also a happy cow, you know? On the other end, for example, if I try to start such a business here, even if the government, for example, lifted me, we already have such a strong stigma towards Africa. Imagine trying to invoice a Ferrari SP3 from Nairobi. Just try and imagine my bank in Kenya, company set, everything. I even have an office. I can even say office on State House Road next to the president of Kenya, everything, you know. Then ask for the payment. We are asking for 4.5 billion euros for this. You can even ask for a deposit, 50,000 euros. How many people are going to sit and say, oh, Ferrari SP3, there isn't even one in Africa, but I'll just send the money. This guy knows what he's doing. Very few people. And you know why? How many people have lost money in Africa? How many investors outside? We have even government people selling fake gold. You know how many people have lost money to fake gold?
It's like those Nigerian prince emails.
Yes.
It's just so many
So,
people that
For
fall
me,
for it.
before even I opened my company, I knew from the get-go it was not going to be in Kenya.
Would you ever think of setting up in Dubai? Because Dubai, I hear, is
Dubai
also
is
promoting
good.
quite a lot
Dubai
of
is
people.
good, but I'll be honest with you. Most of these clients, they spend the entire summer in Europe. So
Yeah,
and
Dubai is not a summer place.
yes. So you see, why if they are coming to me, I don't need to be there. And unless I'm opening a showroom, then it doesn't make sense for me to set up in Dubai. And you see, in Dubai also, you have to picture that they don't relate well with every country around the
I
bloc.
agree.
For example, I have a bigger market in Qatar than Dubai. My
Really?
market goes from Qatar, Saudi, Kuwait, then goes to Dubai. So some of these cars, for example, Dubai and Qatar, they don't relate so well. If I'm selling a car that's in Dubai, I'll have to find all the hassles to get the car into Qatar.
Okay.
So that's
I
the-
understand because there is some tension again between them.
Yes,
so
yes, yes.
just ease of doing business.
So it's better you're just in Europe where they will always come and visit you.
I think it's been quite an interesting.
Yes,
time is gone, Bana.
Yeah,
And
time has gone. I was looking at the time now and it's almost 6 and I know I'm going to be...
So and
traffic,
Julian's
kind
like
of.
3:30 or something.
Yes,
over there.
yes.
I appreciate you taking the time. It's been fascinating watching you do what you do.
Yeah.
I think you're an inspiration for a lot of the car enthusiasts that start up here. These guys were forcing me to get you on the podcast, and I appreciate that you took the time.
I told you once, after 1 week, I'll be here.
Okay. Sasa, you need to give us a Coffee Pump discount code when someone orders on that. So 10% off if you listen to Coffee Pump.
Yes.
On a Bugatti Veyron.
on a Bugatti Veyron or a Ferrari 458.
We'll do that.
Yes.
So guys, if you want to check out Earl, we'll leave all his details in the description. It's been an incredibly interesting conversation. I appreciate you taking the time to come.
Thank you.
This is a very small podcast, so we're lucky this is your first. But hopefully after this, hey, 100,000 subscribers.
This is my very first podcast. I have never done a podcast, so I really wish you the best.
You're natural at it. I appreciate it, bro.
Yep.
Guys, thanks. This has been Coffee Pump. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Yeah.